Welcome back to the 100-year-old schoolhouse, which for the last 4 years we've been slowly, messily, chaotically turning into our home. Short tooth.
You can!
Today I want to take you inside to one of the classrooms that is now our bedroom, and it has undergone quite the transformation that I'm going to show you. And plus, be sure to stick around because later in the video, we finally did something in the yard that I've been dreaming about since 2016, and it involved digging a giant hole. So come on in. By the way, we put a new sign on our door from the study into our bedroom using the Cricut. I don't know how long I'll leave this up here, but it makes me laugh now as it is very fitting as parents of toddlers. Now, before I show what we've done inside the bedroom, if you rewind a few years, this room was in pretty bad shape. It was the room with the most broken roof because there was a pool with multiple feet of water on top, held together with a ratchet strap. After getting completely gutted, a new roof, new door, framing, insulation, electrical, drywall, HVAC, new floors, 1 year ago, it was looking a lot more like this. And that's about when we moved in. When we moved in, we told ourselves, we have so much other stuff to do. Let's get the rest of the house put together and just sleep on a mattress on the floor for now, and we'll figure out our bedroom later. And that lasted about 2 days. I don't know if it was New York nomadic living PTSD, college flashbacks, or the fact that we'd been living with our parents for over a year. We lasted about 2 nights before realizing we were no longer cut out for bohemian floor living. So we got a frame for a hand-me-down headboard that Sean's parents gave us, which was also his grandparents' headboard. And this is what our room looked like for about 10 months. It's hodgepodge. There's a mysterious hole to nowhere that is tastefully secured with a baby gate. But
several months later.
So for the past few months, we've been giving our bedroom a major makeover. I wanted it to feel calm and tucked away and different than the rest of the rooms in the schoolhouse. A place with cozy textures and personal details, a quiet, inviting corner where there's space to think and recharge. And like a lot of things in this renovation, the design started with the brick. And if you've been here a while, you know that we and Brad, the amazing mason, spent many an hour perfecting the look of these gargantuan, old, multicolored paver bricks. And we were like, okay, these walls are gorgeous and we need to be working with them to build the rooms around them. And their pinky terracotta undertones ended up shaping the whole calming monochromatic color palette of this space. Back when we lived in Philadelphia for a year, I made a few paintings for the schoolhouse, and one of them was of the schoolhouse itself. The other was, let me go show you. A giant turkey for the living room where the turkeys used to live when the school was a barn. The one I painted of the school itself, it turns out the brick toned colors that I used in the painting ended up being perfect for the actual brick that was going to be in this room. But this painting's not quite done, but I'll get to that. To keep the bedroom simple and grounding without too much going on, I got a terracotta linen duvet and sheets, and then pulled this old New York chair that we already had into the room. And then about a year after moving in, we finally tackled the infamous hole to nowhere. I've gone deep on this project in another video, but basically we got some antique salvage glass from my favorite shop, Madison Street Salvage, built a custom built-in bookshelf book nook around it to keep the light flowing from room to room, and said goodbye to the weird baby-gated hole to nowhere. Okay, so we just got this rug from Schoolhouse, and I am really excited to open it up because it is going to change the whole room. Not to be confusing, but Schoolhouse is also a brand, and obviously we live in a schoolhouse. I'm really pushing the limits of how many times I can say schoolhouse in one sentence before everyone gets confused.
It's so plush. Wow. Flush means squishy.
I've really loved Schoolhouse, the brand, long before we ever bought our actual Schoolhouse. And the lights in our bedroom are actually from them. So it feels really, really special to be teaming up with them on some upcoming projects. What I love about Schoolhouse is that all of their collections feel like modern heirlooms. Things are well made and there's a lot of American craftsmanship, and everything itself feels like it is both modern but also old and timeless, which is what I'm trying to achieve as we slowly transform each of the rooms in our Schoolhouse. Are you a fan, Penny? You like this rug? But anyway, there's also one other special piece in the room, and it is a gorgeous walnut side table with a leather top. While we were figuring out how to decorate this room, I tried to resist the maximalist voices in my head and went with the monochromatic tones, but I'm just loving how the colors are playing together here with all of the brick. And since this rug is kind of the new centerpiece of the room, I wanted to tie in the exact color of the Mesa rug into the Schoolhouse painting. So I mixed some colors and added a few details to the Schoolhouse painting. Now, before I show the full reveal, there have been a couple other projects that I want to share here in the book nook and in the bedroom that have helped make a big transformation and really change the look and feel of this room. Welcome to my lamp making era. These have been some fun projects. I've made lamps in the past, like this lamp that started it all, a camera lamp that I made with my dad back in 2012, just before we moved to New York City. There are so many salvaged fixtures and odds and ends at thrift shops and antique shops that can make amazing, unique lighting for a space. All right, so I got a few things out of my lamp stash in the basement. The last couple months, I've been making lamps out of all sorts of things, like a school bus stop sign, and one out of an old surveyor's tripod, and a salvaged schoolhouse fixture that Jerry from Oklahoma sent me. Thank you, Jerry. Socket.
What's this?
Pliers.
Is that pliers?
Clamping stuff.
Are you clamping a lamp?
Kind of. Alright. Gonna test this out. But for today's video, I'm going to show how I made the camera lamps. Now, I've been collecting cameras for a long time, and once people knew I liked old cameras, they'd just give me their old cameras that had been sitting in their grandpa's basement for decades. I do have some cameras that I use for old film stuff, but that's a different story. For these new camera lamps, I'm going to use 2 beat up old cameras from the early 1900s, and then 3 very crusty old video cameras. Gonna clean them up. All right, here's what you need. So you need some JB Weld. I got these little foam pieces for the bottom of the lamp. Plug and a switch. Got the cameras. Got this base. He broke off a sample of this for the stone that was in the kids' bathroom, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna figure out something to do with this later. This is an extra little quirky shade that I thought was cool. Socket. This will hold the cord on the back, then got the lamp cord. And if you do want a detailed how-to with links to supplies and stuff, I do have a little blog tutorial linked in my description. But here's how these lamps came together. Okay, now we just don't touch. Because we gotta let it dry. Test this one. Yay, Marco! Now we gotta clean up our mess and figure out where these lamps go. Two other small things in the bedroom before I get to the big reveal. There was this HVAC duct that was on the wall that was driving me nuts every time I saw it. Sean was like, how do you even see that? Like, why are you so annoyed by this? But I don't know. I wanted to figure out a way to make this look old and less irksome, and it turns out big vents are quite expensive, especially if they're brass. So I realized I could use Adobe Illustrator to make little CAD files, and I made myself a vintage-inspired grate design, uploaded it to Send Cut Send to make out of aluminum that I'm going to make look like vintage Schoolhouse brass. Okay, so I just got this aluminum grate from Send Cut Send. Now I'm going to add some rub and buff that will make it look brass when it's up on the wall, because a solid brass grate was like $500. In hindsight, I think I probably would have just spray painted this grate, as the rub and buff was a little irritating to use on this particular project, but even with all the extra work, it does look really cool. And then, finally, one other update. Our friend Chad, the trim wizard, was back, and some of our windows are finally getting trim. After the long, leaky window saga that we've had, that I'll get into, and living with exposed insulation and drafts and water and all the things, it is so satisfying to have trim on the dang windows. And now we've just gotta paint. So, after 4 years of work and 1 year of living here, this is what our bedroom is looking like today, with the new Schoolhouse rug and table and our projects and all of our old furniture. Alright, in other major happenings at the schoolhouse, let's talk about why we were digging a gigantic hole in the backyard and why that's been a dream almost 10 years in the making. Perfectly rectangular. Just like the book, Robert. So recently, our little New York family came to visit, and hosting a big group of our people here, that's honestly one of the biggest reasons we wanted to take on this whole schoolhouse project in the first place. And about 10 years ago, a few of us got way too invested in this taco cookbook, and in it was a recipe for cochinita pibil, a traditional Mexican method of pit roasting meat in the ground, also known to us as hog in a hole. And ever since then, it's been our group dream to make it happen. So it took a couple of us buying a literal schoolhouse before we could finally live out this dream. And ever since we moved in, we've been joking, when's the hog in the hole happening? Well, this visit was it. Logan even made t-shirts. With the help of my dad's auger, a few shovels, and some leftover bricks and sheet metal from the schoolhouse renovation, we dug a hole. In the dirt later.
Everyone stand back. You need to count to 10 though.
1, 2, 5, 6, 1, 2.
Light the hog hole.
There we go. The process is kind of magical. You build a roaring fire, let it burn down to the coals, then wrap the food in leaves and seal it all up to cook low and slow with the residual heat. Next time we need to be better at sourcing some banana leaves instead of butcher paper. While dinner was doing its thing underground, we took some time to sit up on the roof deck and soak in the Indiana cornfield views, which is way more beautiful than people give them credit for. We also tested out a new addition to the roof deck, a polywood bar cart. If you've watched some of my other videos, you might remember last fall I went up to northern Indiana to tour the polywood factory and to see how they make everything from recycled plastic. And I am really excited to see and share their newest design in bar cart form. And then it was time to get the pig out of the hole. By the time dinner was ready, it was late, but honestly, that's this group's signature move. Overly ambitious amateur cooks who love an elaborate experiment. Definitely a different kind of construction project than the Schoolhouse is used to, and we need to do some iteration, but it has been one of the tastier ones. We ended the night full, a little smoky, and just really grateful to have the space to make this kind of chaos and experimentation possible. Up next for the Schoolhouse, boy, have we bitten off another big project. For the last couple months, we've been working on something really big for the kitchen. A big cookbook kitchen library, but all made out of salvaged and leftover materials. We literally pulled some of this stuff out of the dumpster, and before the project even started, Sean had said, "Stacey, I really don't want to be planing a bunch of wood," but we ended up planing a bunch of wood. When we renovated the Schoolhouse, we ended up with a lot of construction waste, especially from water damage. There were floors and joists and stair treads, you name it. Some was not savable, but a lot of it we made a point to salvage as much as we could. We set aside every board that still had life in it for future projects. And between that and all the leftover scraps from contractors, from framing and flooring, odds and ends, we've built up quite the little lumber library. Salvaging is a pretty gross process. And so far our treasured loot looks a lot like trash, and a lot of it has been living out in the murder barn waiting for its next life. There's definitely been a raccoon living in here. So far we've denailed a ton of the old stair treads, planed them down, and these are going to be the bookshelves. We used a bunch of the leftover plywood to make the cabinet frames, and right now we're working on building drawers and shelves inside. I also refinished this orphan piece of a barrister bookcase and this section of a card catalog that used to look pretty gnarly when I got it. And here's what it's looking like today. So stay tuned, because I am really excited to incorporate these giant antique pickup sticks into the cookbook library. I'm really hoping it works. So we'll see. As always, thanks a ton for following along, sharing suggestions, and some of you have even sent literal gifts of loot from other schoolhouses. Have a lot more to share coming soon. Okay, last weekend, we were working in the garage, and an incredibly kind person dropped off these maps in one of the old map holders that would hang on the wall. And I was wearing my respirator and my staining medical coat, and I kind of got so excited when I was looking at these that I forgot to get the person's address. So I think it was Alan or Andrew. If you don't mind shooting me a message, the kids and I owe you a giant thank you note. These are incredible.